Welcome to the Long Range Pursuit Podcast, presented by Gunworks, where we learn about and share long-range shooting techniques, science, and gear.
Okay, well, we got another rapid-fire suppressor podcast episode here.
Back again.
We talked about a little bit of technical stuff, some of the sound suppression stuff. I want to talk about choosing and buying the right suppressor. So again, a couple of these questions that have been coming in from guys that we thought, let's just hop on some podcasts here and address a few of them. So one of the big ones that I get very often is guys calling in and asking, okay, should I buy steel or titanium? And if you look at the Gunworks lineup, there's a lot of suppressors out there, same. A lot of guys either using steel or titanium in their suppressor designs. There's kind of pros and cons to both. I thought we could kind of talk through a little bit about why you might want to choose one or the other.
Yeah. So I guess personally, I'm a steel guy, and a lot of it is personal preference.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, in my opinion, the biggest factor is weight between titanium and steel.
Right.
There's increased strength with steel and increased toughness along with that. Your steel cans are going to last longer, corrode slower, but you do get that added weight, 40% more weight than you would.
I think that's about what it is, about 40%. I mean, if you made two identical suppressors one out of titanium, one out of steel, and we see that, right? Because we have our 8 steel, 8 titanium, 6 plus steel, 6 titanium. It's about 40% weight savings for essentially the exact same performance, at least sound-wise. With that suppressor.
Yeah, and we see very similar performance between the same cans of different material.
Yeah. And so essentially you're trading off cost for weight savings, right? So, generally guys asking, I say, okay, well, are you, hunting out of a tree stand, or are you packing 50 miles into the backcountry? Because to me, that's a real big difference. Or are you weight sensitive? Are you concerned about having a heavy gun? And if that's an issue, then titanium's a great choice if you're willing to pay that extra cost, right? The switch from steel to titanium comes with a pretty significant price penalty, and we'll kind of talk through, why that is. So we'll take a little break there, and I just lost my train of thought. Same thing.
Yeah, why it is that it's a cost saving.
Yeah, I'm just trying to decide which the best next step is there. You kind of touched on the resilience or the strength. Maybe we dive into there, and then the reasons for it being more expensive, or I wonder if I should just go straight to expenses.
I could hit on another thing about strength, I guess. I mean, like titanium at the end of the day, just as a material, has poor shock resistance.
Yeah.
And it's tuned to work well for suppressors. The wall thicknesses are tuned, and there's enough data to show that these walls don't fail under heavy use.
Right.
But just as a general guideline, titanium is a material that's prone to stress cracking.
Yeah.
Which you can see, later on in the life of a titanium can. A couple thousand rounds in, many hundred rounds in, if you're really abusive to the can, cracking can be an issue.
If you're heating it up significantly, like way beyond where it's designed, it's a little bit more sensitive to that, if I recall.
Right, and thermal cycling that, getting it very hot, cooling it back down, very hot, cooling it back down. Whereas steel, the thermal cycle is really not much of a concern.
Sure.
You can thermal cycle a steel can for its entire life,
right?
Until you absolutely blow out every baffle in the thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And is that a result of just the properties of the titanium, or is it? I know that titanium is also more conductive, so it heats up quicker than the steel as well, right?
Right, and I think I believe that is the molybdenum content.
Oh, really?
Titanium.
Okay.
I may have that wrong.
Interesting.
But it's just a standard material property of titanium. It's just known as a more brittle material.
It is. Yeah.
And that's why you have the increased cost too, right? It's more difficult to machine. The welds, you got to watch the welds more carefully. It needs to be more precise.
Right.
So and then the raw materials, another added cost for titanium. So
I mean, you're probably I should know you're probably 3 times the cost, maybe 4 times the cost just from straight raw material steel to titanium.
I would believe
It's a
that.
significant increase in material costs. Then you've got the machining. Then you've got all the work on getting it welded right. And so that's really where those significant cost increases come from. It's not necessarily just, hey, it's sexier so we can sell more. It's lighter so we can charge more for it. There's an actual cost involved in producing a titanium can over a steel can.
Oh, exactly. If they cost the same to produce, they'd be the same on the website. Yeah.
So, I mean, basically, at the end of the day, right, you're going to get the same performance, sound suppression out of steel or titanium. Steel can is going to be a little bit more resilient, long-term, tougher. We've still designed the titanium cans to hold up to what they're designed for, so that's not really a concern. But at the end of the day, I think I would tell guys, if you don't need titanium, just go steel, right? It's easy button. It's just the better choice, but don't be afraid to go titanium if you really are weight sensitive and need that. Don't just buy it because it's cool, because it's higher tech or fancy or anything like that. Like, the weight savings is the goal there.
Right. I totally agree. And I do think you get some people out there these days where they hear titanium's the weaker
sexy,
material.
right?
Right. It's sexy, but you get some people that think, oh, titanium's the weaker material. I don't get me anywhere near it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's a perfectly suitable material for suppressors. You're going to get a long life, especially if it's a hunting suppressor out of a titanium can.
Yeah, and I think that's a good note, right? We are not building duty rated, full auto rated type suppressors. Gunworks has been very, very focused on optimized suppressors that are built for long range precision work on bolt guns. Yeah, you could go mount it on an AR if you wanted. If you're treating it carefully, it will probably work, but it's not optimized, designed around that platform. It's built for precision long range hunting with big magnums. That's really where our cans shine.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Let's talk, how do I attach a suppressor to my rifle? For us being in the industry, it's kind of intuitive, but it's kind of a black box for guys that have not been around this for very long. So, I guess, where would you start? Okay, I've got a gun. I want to buy a suppressor. How do I know that this thing's actually going to fit?
Right. And it is kind of smoke and mirrors just because there's so many different mounting methods out there today.
Right.
It's hard for, anybody out there to know what's right for them. You get this weird world of proprietary suppressor mounts, a whole lot of guys doing those. And a lot of those, right, it gets complicated, and a lot of those are perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, I say go simple, either go hub mount or a taper lock. And there's lots of guys out there doing taper lock suppressors these days.
Right.
And that's where we're at. We're taper lock. How do you want to sell that?
Yeah. So I guess, where I would start is really, to start out, you're going to need a rifle with a threaded muzzle, right? Straight up. There are some clamp-on styles out there. It's not the way to go. So you're going to need a threaded muzzle on your rifle. Mm-hmm. The nice thing is as time progresses, more and more rifles are threaded, right? It used to be hardly any even where you'd have to take it to gunsmith to get the muzzle threaded or whatever else. But more and more, almost the good majority of factory rifles are threaded now, at least the decent ones. Pretty much all your custom guns are threaded.
Adapting our direct thread to the taper lock.
Right. And so basically you need a thread on your muzzle. You need to figure out what that thread pattern is, right? So I would say probably 90% of the threaded muzzles in the US are probably 5/8 24 or half 28. If you got a gun with a threaded muzzle, the huge odds are it's one of those two sizes. And if so, you're in luck, because our suppressors come with a thread mount in both sizes, right? If your muzzle is threaded with one of these other oddball, there's a few metric patterns out there. There's a couple in between sizes there, depending on the size of the end diameter of your muzzle. then we've got a couple other sizes that can fit, or a gunsmith could potentially size it down. But that's really the first step, is find out what size thread I have on my muzzle. And then we can go from there. We've got taper mounts to screw onto the end of your barrel from there. And then our suppressor is easily mounted to that and can be moved back and forth between any rifle, essentially.
Right. And so we've found that taper lock mounting system is the most repeatable and best for our situations. So what we've created is a thread adapter mount that threads onto your threaded muzzle, and you know this obviously, and gives you that taper lock on any direct thread, on any muzzle thread.
Yeah. What is a mechanism with that being so effective as it is?
And so because we take time in the machining, we're the tolerances of that tapered surfaces we hold very tight, as well as the matching tapered surface in the can, and that allows for very repeatable point of impact shifts.
Yeah, right. So essentially, it's kind of seating and aligning perfectly with the bore every time consistently.
Right, aligning concentrically with that thread adapter, because we're cutting those thread adapters so concentric with the muzzle thread.
Gotcha. And I guess the alternative would be, there's a lot of guys building these kind of QD mount style systems out there, which for certain applications is really nice. If you're on the battlefield and you got to get a suppressor on now and go, you don't want to be sitting there, 10 turns or whatever on a mount to get a suppressor on and off.
Right.
But at the end of the day, to achieve the repeatability, the precision, the consistency that we want, essentially you want to replicate a more direct thread style. What we've done is we've kind of achieved that with the taper mount plus the added alignment repeatability with the taper built into that as well.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are kind of confused about the added benefit of having a direct thread, where you get a bunch of those proprietary QD mounts that are, a single rotation and the thing's locked on.
Yeah.
And the way they're able to achieve that is having multi-start threads, these very steep threads.
Okay.
And the problem with those is that it's inconsistent. It's hard to keep consistent in the manufacturing process. And so each time you throw that can on, chances are it started on a different thread.
And it's going to index
differently on your barrel.
That makes sense.
So that's the benefit of these direct threads, is most of them are single start threads, like what we're doing on our taper lock system.
It's going to go on the same every single time.
Every single time you're going to get that same POI.
That makes sense. Okay. So I think, as far as mounting to your rifle, again, just to reiterate, find out what the thread pattern is on your muzzle. Either, look it up on the manufacturer's website, call your gunsmith, whatever else. He's going to give you a 5/8 24, half 28, something like that. Jump on the Gunworks website and simply match that up with we've got a list of our thread mounts available. And if you've got the same muzzle thread as one of our thread mount adapters, then you're golden. You're ready to go. You don't need anything else. You get it in the box and screw it on and go shoot.
Exactly.
So it's really that simple, as long as you can figure out what that thread pattern is.
Right.
So one last little piece is kind of touch on is how to buy a suppressor and what that tax stamp process is. And I feel like we've touched on this a lot, but it really is kind of, I think, the biggest, scariest thing preventing people from buying suppressors, and it just really shouldn't scare us away. And I'm the guilty guy. Like I thought about it for years and years. It's scary and all the different paperwork, and it's just not worth it. And back then it was a long wait time. You're talking 8-10 months, a year to get a tax stamp back. So essentially what you're going to do, you want to buy a suppressor, you either jump on Gunworks or call us and you pay us for upfront for the suppressor. Or the alternative would be to go into a dealer, one of these licensed suppressor dealers all over the country, and say, hey, I want to buy a suppressor, same with Gunworks or anything else, right? You're going to pay upfront for it. And what they're going to do is you're going to work with that dealer to help you file the paperwork. So they've done thousands of these before. It's become so easy that they're going to walk you right through it, hold your hand to do it. If you happen to live in Wyoming, we can work with you on the paperwork. If you're outside of Wyoming, you're going to have to work with one of those dealers to do it, because it has to happen within your home state. And so if you buy it from us, either over the phone or online, we'll ship it to a dealer near you, and then you can go into that shop and fill out that paperwork. But it's probably a half hour. They're going to take fingerprints. They're going to take a little passport photo, and then it's a typical background check. You got to write a $200 check to the feds. That's the tax stamp, the unfortunate piece that we still got to do. But the nice thing is that paperwork's filed, and we're seeing those come back within a matter of a couple days at the worst, as of late. And so it's very quick. They'll call you a couple days later, say, hey, your tax stamp came through. Come on in and pick up your suppressor, and you're off to the races.
Which is just great to see. The more suppressors,
Yeah.
the better.
Yeah.
And it's the time to buy one if you're gonna.
Absolutely is. And you've seen this increase, all these people that have been afraid to do it, and now it's gotten a lot easier here in the last few years. Also, it used to be all paperwork. You had to mail it in. It's all moved electronic now, and so it's significantly faster and simpler just to finish the paperwork in the first place. And so a lot of guys are jumping on board, and a lot of suppressor manufacturers are having a hard time keeping up. Well, we just kind of got through the light at the end of the tunnel on overcoming that challenge, and we've got our supply chain, materials, production all tuned up to where, as of about the last couple of weeks, we are flush on suppressors and rocking and rolling. Our guys are like cranking those things out now, so there should not be any holdups or delay on getting a Gunworks suppressor for a long time going forward from here. So it's a really great time to get a suppressor.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for jumping on, Mac. I appreciate it, guys. Give us a holler if you got any questions. Email us, phone us, whatever else, and we're here and happy to help however we can.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in.
Cool. Thanks.
If you like what you're hearing here, please take a second and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on iTunes or on your favorite podcast app. We appreciate your feedback and suggestions for topics you'd like discussed or questions you want answered on the podcast. You can reach out on Facebook or Instagram or send us an email to podcast@gunworks.com. Also, be sure and check out our full offering of long-range gear at gunworks.com. Use promo code LRP for free shipping on any order.